But again, how long can Iran and Iranians go? Because we have Trump who said that he will continue attacking even in the coming weeks. Considering the fact that, how would you analyze Iran's stockpile at the moment? How long can Iran actually go in sustaining this war?
Look, Iran have the land and have the history. They have already survived 8 years of war with Iraq, and they can survive as long as they can, want it to be, because they do have the technology. Maybe it's a limited technology, but here we have two types of different war. One country is Iran, which is depending on its own self-reliance and fighting, and they're able to produce, and they have a stockpile of enough ammunition. And you have a country like United States and Israel, who is not only using their reserve strategic weapons, but they will be dragging more countries into this war, NATO forces, and also including the regional countries. So therefore, this war can go and expand, because if tomorrow the United States still keep on bombing and does not achieve its objective, then Iran will keep on retaliating and attacking all the American interests in the region. So where do we are heading? I think it will be a more of a regional war, and the United States will be more than happy to make sure that the Asia suffer because of the oil, because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So you have a problem of your security, or food security, oil security, and the diaspora. So everybody will suffer. Where the United States is 5,000 miles away, they will not have any kind of an impact unless and until the Americans themselves start feeling the heat. Nobody can change his mindset. And beside all this, the war, which is in what direction it is going, it doesn't show any kind of relief or in the near future. So I think it is only the American who can put pressure on their president, because they don't want to see American coffins coming back home.
And considering that, how do you think the relationship between the GCC countries and US will be like going forward? Because as you mentioned, along with spiking oil prices, Iran's de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz is raising fertilizer costs. That will impact the agriculture. There's also desalination plants that were damaged in these attacks in Bahrain, if you can say. So many Arab countries in the region, they heavily rely for drinking water there. So it's not just oil, it's food, it's also water. How would you analyze GCC relationship with US going forward after this conflict?
Well, I think the GCC will have a second thought about a reality of the American presence in the region, because most of the GCC refused and the war, and they have complained to the United States and tried to mediate not to go for this war, because they knew they will be the first sufferer if any war broke in the region. So therefore, we could see that they are the one who paying the price. And the United States, for sure, and Israel wanted to see a direct involvement of the GCC, a direct confrontation with Iran, so they can at least withdraw from the war and send the ammunition for both sides, and they will be paying the bill. So the war will take a different diversion, which is not going to happen, because most of the Arab countries, though they have been hit badly by Iran, but there are also some of the reports we keep hearing that there is a false flag, and there are others who are trying to sabotage or take advantage of this situation and provoke the relation between Iran and Saudi Arabia, for example, or Oman. These are the two countries which considered to be friendly with Iran, but there are certain attacks. Iran denied its involvement. So therefore, who's carrying those attacks? That means there are sinister plot to indulge and involve the Arab countries in direct confrontation with Iran.
All right. Well, going forward, do you think there will be any chance of a deal going forward? Because we have Axios report has said that U.S. officials have been talking to every regional countries, also Chinese president and Russian president. Also, there was not a deal made with Russian President Putin. But officials have also cited Axios, saying that Trump won't be willing to make a deal if it's a good deal. What, according to you, would be a good deal for U.S. and on the other part for Iran at this point, if at all it happens?
Well, I think everybody having to stick to its position, like United States saying they wanted the deal, but at the same time he issued a bounty of $10 million on the head of the new supreme leader of Iran. And then Iranians saying we will not stop this term till you remove your military bases from the region and pay us compensation for this war and give us guarantee that you're not going to attack Iran for the next 50 years. Does the United States willing to do so? The United States have been carrying this policy in the region ever since the 1971 till date, and more than 35 million people have been killed so far. United States regime change by force had been carried out. And when the president came and he thought that he can do the same thing, but in his own style, he started with Venezuela and now he's taking on Iran. But Iran is a culture, is a civilized nation. It may not be that easy cake to swallow. It will be very difficult for the United States to understand that their objective in the regions are different from the objective of the declared by Israel. So therefore, they may be having common enemies, but definitely they have different in the strategy of what exactly they want. The United States wanted a regime change, continue the pumping of the oil. Israel wanted to make sure that Iran does not raise any kind of a security concern to Iran in at least the next 50 years to come. Because what happened in American war secretary says it is a warship. We have been preparing for it since 1947, and here we see Netanyahu saying, "I have been dreaming of this war for the last 40 years." Look where the rhetoric is going on. Where do we see any light in the end of the tunnel? I think when the international community realized and recognized that this war could go out of control, I think then there'll be some people will take step, and a backdoor diplomacy may find some kind of some temporary solution, but not a permanent one.
Not a permanent one. Well, of course, also you mentioned the objectives. Trump has also mentioned this. He said that the objectives is different for U.S. and Israel. Do you think that would create any kind of difference on the ground operations that will be conducted by U.S. and Israel, since they have different goals?
They will not conduct any ground operation. Both of them are so coward that even to attack or come closer to the Iranian shore. They are relying more on the opposition and secessionist forces, whether it is the Kurdish, whether it is Mujahideen Khalq or Azaris minorities or Baluchis. These are the American style of divide and rule and use the internal division within the countries and take care of the minorities and protects that they will give them an independent state and they will continue for this war. So I think the situation and the scenario is far more complex than what we are watching now.
And how do you observe Israel's goals? Of course, what they have said is they want a regime change. They want the uranium stockpiles to be obliterated. Also, they're already at a war with Lebanon. So how do you analyze Israel's goal in this point, and how do you think Iran would be retaliating to this so far, if they can, and how long?
The plight of the Middle East or West Asia have been already started since 1948. And in fact, if you look at the sequence of war have been fought all this part of the world, it's only because of the creation of Israel and the expansion at the cost of the Palestinian and the Syrian, the Lebanese, the Egyptian, the Jordanian. So we have seen that this war is based on expansions and at the cost of the neighbor. And now, after 76 years of world deceptions that they are the victim by the Arabs, they are openly saying it now. The Smotrich, the finance minister, the minister of government security, Ben-Gvir, and even the prime minister is saying that our border is from Nile to Euphrates, which including Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, and Sinai Peninsula, 1/3 of Saudi Arabia. Then where do we are heading? If that is the claim, and American President, ambassador in Israel himself is saying, why not? Israel can control. These are a promised land. So now there's a mixture of misguided biblical voices that they have been raising with the new technology, and this deadly mixture the people of the region has to pay. So all these things happening, even the war on Iran, is just part of that game plan. So how do we end? Where do we go from that region? I belong to Syria. Where do I go? Do I go as a slave for the Israelis, or what I'll do then? I have to resist. And these are kind of a policy they carried out of perpetual provocation for a permanent wars is nothing but to achieve the Israelis' objective. And the Americans have been dragged in this. It is all either because of blackmailing of Trump, because Netanyahu, if you look at his history throughout his 45 years, you will notice that he's always been pushing for a fight against Iran, first USSR, then Iran, then Iraq, then Libya, name it, and then he is carrying out all his missions. And they putting lots of pressure on President Trump. And don't forget the Epstein file, with Trump is being trapped on that.
Oh, well, of course, we'll have to So wait and see how it goes, because as of now, Trump has, of course, said that he has obliterated military camp in the Karg Island as of now. But how does this go? And it doesn't seem to abate at all. But thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and giving your perspective. Appreciate it.
Okay.